Yo, we're back. Day 10. Gonna get it cracking, dog. Gonna get it cracking. One thing I did is I have kind of automated a lot of my LinkedIn posting. So I'm posting something every hour there. I need to work on the same thing for my video content. It'll just take like batch work essentially, meaning I need to clip up a bunch of my stuff. That way I can just keep posting out in perpetuity for a while and then create new content as well. But like today, I haven't really created any necessarily new content aside for this string. However, I guess I did with the LinkedIn post, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, that was it's a good day, kind of productive. Had a couple podcasts today. I believe I have a podcast tomorrow as well. I have a networking event I'm going to, and then at 11, I'm meeting up with somebody who was on the podcast. We're going to have a talk. Thursday, there's a round table thing I'll be at. Yeah. Yeah. Next Monday, I'm meeting up with, he's a business owner here locally. I think he owns like a private education company for children, like, legit, not course selling or anything like that. But anyway, he reached out to me. He'd been seeing my stuff on Facebook, really liked it, which reminds me, I got so much work I have to do on my Facebook. So here's what I'll do to begin with. Since I'm already here, I know the work I have to do. Let's get started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it. Let's get it. I got a new follower today on the Instagram. Yes, fam, on the Instagram. On the Instagram. On the Instagram. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Must be this one. It is not that one. Okay, 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 okay. Why doesn't it give me a scheduling setting? Ooh. No. No. See, that's whack. I don't know why it doesn't give me a scheduling setting. What if I go here? Curious if it'll let me do this here. I go create, upload a video. I can schedule it. Yeah, I certainly can. All right, cool. Make sure you check out that podcast. This one right here. It was the first one dropped. Me and Dom. Dom and I. See the analytics. 90. Got 3 new subscribers from it. 8-hour watch time. That ain't that great. Let's see. So the first day I was out. Didn't get much. But then it kept growing and growing and growing and steady growing, which is good. But let's see, like 8% finished it, which is how many? Like, let's see. Come on. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My phone is being so J. That means like 8.8 people watched all the way through. So we got people to click in. Boom. We got like ton. Huge drop off in 32 seconds. It kind of stayed the same most of the way through. So that's interesting.
Hey, Luis.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, well, the big issue here is that part, which it's my fault. You know, I have somebody who's helping me do this, and I wasn't specific enough on what I was looking for in the intro, and I was tied up at the time. And yeah, you know, I just, it's a failure on my part. That could be done a lot better. So we had 1.7K impressions. Okay. Nice. So I got to do better. That's for sure. What's a good click through rate? Let's see. Click through rate goes for YouTube. Average is 5% and above. Hang on. YouTube reports that half of the channels, 5% is generally considered strong, indicating that your thumbnail and title are effectively capturing audience attention. Okay, so we got 3.6. I mean, it's not a huge amount of people, but we got 3.4 rather. Probably need better wording in here. That would help. Definitely need better intro. That's for sure. So 40% came from Gmail because I think I sent it to some people over Gmail. There's Instagram, there's Facebook. Nice. Okay, so we got to shoot for 5%. It'll get to 5%, that'll be considered strong. And then we'll move up to 10%. All right, let's get to 5%. So we're at 3.4%. That's not bad. It's like great. I mean, the average duration is only 5 minutes and 22 seconds. That's because, like, a good portion of it was just nothing. And that's because the video wasn't edited properly. And that's my fault. Oh, wow. You can create clips in here? I did not realize that. Let's see if we can.
Hey, Luis.
Hey, how's it going?
See?
It's going.
It's a huge drop. Right there for sure.
Change with the use of AI. Bridging that knowledge.
See, all this stuff is unnecessary. That was a long wasted time. That's okay. That's okay. It's part of the game. It's the learning curve. My computer froze on me. Pretty whack. Pretty whack. Pretty whack. Pretty whack. My phone is frozen. My phone is frozen. No, it's not. It's my computer. There we go. We're back at it. Yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But the YouTube channel's on the come up. We're a pre-viral channel. Just in case you didn't know, we're pre-viral. A bunch of these shorts I put out today are doing okay.
If you don't learn about AI, you're going to end up broke.
So, yeah, I gotta keep doing the videos as well, the shorts. So like that's a big disconnect I have right now. So I can do scheduling for TikTok and scheduling for LinkedIn. I can do scheduling for Instagram. YouTube I can do scheduling for, but it won't let me do it on my phone. So then that makes it a little more difficult. even though it's not super difficult, it's just, it would be more convenient to be able to do that on my phone. And then Facebook, I'm not sure how to schedule them. So those are my big issues right now, because it's causing, a disconnect between posting times when they should all be rocking out at the same time, no matter what platform you're on. Because I just want to be dominating the space. And right now, I think it's a big part of the volume game. If I can just get a lot of iterations out there that are just like not that great, and then tweak them as we go, I think that'll be great. Because just because they're not great for getting a lot of views right now doesn't mean that the content inside it isn't valuable, right? But I need to step it up. So it can be good over time, like with the facelift of the whole channel, but I just have to really get into it and be better than what I'm doing now. That's key. So I got to get better equipment. I have to be able to create better clips too, because you can't just default your clipping to the AI. That's what I've been doing. And it doesn't produce as good quality. And that's an issue. It takes a certain skill set to clip videos well. I'm not clipping. I am having the AI decide what to clip, and then there we go. That's what we're posting. Because there's a lot that I'm doing. But I guess if I took some more time and really I guess taking my time. But even the people who are making good content and doing it at scale, just mass producing, they're not necessarily super strict on. I mean, they probably are strict on the standards, and they just have the system down. That's what I need to do. So I need to do that. I need to okay, let me see something here. I've been kind of lazy in the script too, to be quite honest. I go to edit video and I do everything from there. I could be making these in different languages, which is what I should do. I should start a Spanish channel. Watch AI make your video with voiceover and visuals. Let's see what this is. You know what? Let me see something. Let me see. I'm going to try something out. You know what? I'm curious about this. Let me see, because I got some. We're going to try this out. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to my LinkedIn. I want to just experiment. So I'm going to take this last post that was just made. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go paste in script. Continue. Who do we want telling this? Let's see. Okay. Cedric for her. That'd be hilarious. Let me hear him. No, come on. Come on, man. There we go. Let's go with that. Okay. Let's see how this works. Let's see. I'm excited to see. Let's see if it's any good. What do you think, mate? You think it's going to be good, mate? We will see. May tell you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's still generating. Darn. Darn, damn it. We wait. We're at 9%. All right. While we're waiting on this thing, we're going to go over here. And we are going to observe. Let's see. David Shapiro.
Are you aware that men only got any rights to vote about a decade before women?
The right to vote was historically withheld from men of color. It was a
It was also withheld from
Listen to
the
me.
general population.
Do not cut me off. I'm in the middle of speaking.
I don't care if you're in the middle of speaking. You're in the middle of a debate.
The right
You don't
was-
have your TikTok mute button, sweetheart? What?
I'm sorry. Can you talk to me like I'm an actual?
I do like the way Andrew Wilson debates. He's a very good debater. He definitely knows what he's doing, and he's been practicing his craft for a long time. I remember discovering him when I was my MOT days, which we were doing similar things on TikTok, and I was decent. I'm a decent debater, and if I would practice, I'd get a lot better. But I have a good ability to debate. But when I saw him, he's been good for years, and he's only gotten better. There's a reason why he keeps doing it, and he makes good money doing that.
Person in front of you.
As soon as you start answering questions, I'll start talking to you like a person
As soon
who can.
as you start asking me relevant
Great.
questions.
Here's the question.
When I discovered Andrew Wilson for the first time, like many people, I thought some of his points were interesting, but I did not necessarily connect with the brutal style he had with some of his opponents. But then what piqued my interest was when I saw in him something I have been preaching for over the last 10 years, which is nothing else than authentic communication. When you have something really important to say, if you don't allow yourself to say it out of fear, or if you just don't have the skills to make people stop arguing with you and let you say it for once, then you will always remain the victim of how others want you to live your life and how others want you to think. And just like this guy said in the comments, I like Andrew's debate style because it seems honest and genuine, not fake and rehearsed. I like that he doesn't try to be something that he is not, just to appease an audience, but rather just be himself. No one is perfect, and it's annoying when people try to act as if they are.
I think at the core heart of the Crucible's message is you don't have to take this. You don't have to put up with this. You don't have to be beholden to the whims of sophists and lunatics, crazy people, and degenerates. You don't have to be beholden to that. And if they try to kind of browbeat you, you can browbeat them right back. If they try to out-debate you, you can out-debate them right back. If they try to use logical argumentation, you can defeat that as well. I think that at its core, that is the message. And I understand that I'm a brutal debater at times, but I think it's necessary, honestly.
Then, aside from this more general
I agree with that. A lot of people are too soft.
perspective on why debating, how should we debate, what really made me change my mind about him was when I started watching entire debates of him and not just the small clips with heated exchanges.
In the future.
Yeah, okay, listen. So here's my take on this, right? This criticism usually comes from people who don't watch the long form of the show, they watch the clips.
Yeah.
So when they see the clip, they see a heated exchange, but they have no context for the exchange. So I'm just going to be blunt and ask you,
Yeah.
is this idea coming from the clips, or is it coming from you actually having watched several long-form, whatever podcast episodes?
I have seen one or two full 7-hour, all 14-hour of your guys' content.
Yeah, so then I don't understand the criticism, because you should know then that almost always the conversations are very kind of mundane and talk about kind of mundane things. They only get heated if we kind of brush up against political topics or when ideologies begin to converge, right? They do the bullying, but then when you hit back, they cry about it.
Hurt people.
Right. Oh, you're this, you're that, you're this.
Yeah.
You hit them back with one thing, and suddenly, oh, I can't believe you said that to me, right? If you've watched these long form episodes, you'll note that most of the time, I just match energy.
Yep.
So if you're pretty chill, you're pretty laid back. I'm pretty chill and laid back.
Yeah.
Right. If you're kind of loud and obnoxious, I'll be loud and obnoxious. If you want to move into personal attacks, I move right into the personal attacks. Right. But what that actually does is it de-escalates a situation.
Yeah, it does. And this guy just has a smug look on his face. He has a Bible here too.
So generally, when a person knows, it's just like the idea of the person who thinks they can punch you.
Yeah.
If they know you'll punch back, they're less likely to punch you, right? It's the same exact mentality there. They tend to kind of chill out a little more, like, you're not the guy who I want to do this with.
Yeah, you're pushing back, turning. Yeah.
Right.
And we are going to break down such examples right now where he's doing exactly what he described previously. Those examples include strong language and quite confrontational style, to say the least. It is just what I think is a nice tool to have in your toolbox whenever you confront somebody who is flipping the conversation all the time whenever they know that they are wrong.
I swear, if you bring up the bodily autonomy to a fetus,
No,
we will have a
no,
very
I
long
won't.
discussion.
I'm not going to.
Cool.
I'm not. I'm just going to bring
Then
up
yes,
the. I'm just
bodily
going to. I'm just going to
autonomy.
bring up the draft.
The draft?
Yeah. What about the bodily autonomy of men when it comes to being drafted?
Never said I agreed with the draft.
Yeah, maybe not, right? But whether you do or you don't, wouldn't that be a case of men being oppressed and women not being?
I mean, yeah, but who created that system?
Why would that matter?
Because you're men, you put yourself in that position. It's not like us women all voted for you to go to war.
Or
like,
a queen.
You
who
voted for yourselves to do
hang on,
that.
let's say it was a king or a queen who invented that system yesterday. What would that have to do with the fact that right now, today, me and Brian can't do anything about that?
Wait.
So, and hang on, since we can't do anything about that, aren't we oppressed by that system?
In the super hypothetical scenario of a king or queen
No, like
making
right
decisions,
now, right this second.
No, we don't have a king or a queen here.
We don't need a king or a
so-
queen. Right this second,
Right this second.
I can be drafted. You can't. Yeah.
Depends. How old are you?
Right now, I'm 40.
I don't think you would be drafted.
Yes, in fact, the draft can be accelerated up to 70, like it is in the Ukraine and in Russia right this second, or it can be decreased to 13, 14, like it.
Yeah, I mean, he knows his shit, and that's why he's able to win. It's because he knows what he's talking about, and he knows how to formulate an argument. Like, those are two different things. Like, you can know all these facts, but be horrible at stringing them together in a coherent argument that is sound. That's another skill set. Definitely comes easier to some people, but just like everything, just like everyone has something that they can easily do compared to other people, or have an easier time picking it up. Right? We all have our natural abilities. But anyway, yeah, that's he's good.
It has been in World War I. So the question is,
wasn't there talk about making the draft for females too?
yes, but interestingly enough, that's nice that you're talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's not the case. So if it's
But
not
there
the
was
case,
talk about
so if
it,
it's not
though.
the case, you say you don't have any bodily autonomy, but neither do I.
Do you have to grow another person inside of you? And then
I'm sorry.
push
Do
it
you
out
have to
of
go
the
die in a war?
So we are going to use the magical linguistics model to elaborate on what is happening here from a rhetorical
He's good and he's quick. He's witty.
standpoint. And before getting into the deep breakdown, you can find down below an entire chapter showing you how to build an argumentation the way he does, or the way any competent debater does, to control the frame whenever you have to exchange with somebody who is not really kind to your arguments. You will find that down below. It is a chapter from my book, given to you for a limited time only. And with that in mind, let's see the first argument he made against her oppression worldview. He said that because men can be drafted and not women, men are equally as oppressed as women are. This is the first belief, the first inference he is coming up with, and she's challenging that in the beginning by going higher into the meta frame, so taking a broader perspective on what is happening here, asking who created that system, because she wants to steal in her rhetoric that obviously men are the problem about everything in society. He counter-challenged that by saying, why would that matter? By the way, whenever somebody gets up in the meta frame trying to take a higher perspective over you,
I like this breakdown. This is a very good way of breaking it down. Like, yeah, it takes skill.
the main thing to do is to stay within the meta frame and contradict them there instead of arguing with specific details. If you go into details in response to a challenge made in the meta frame, you are getting swallowed into the frame of your opponent. If you challenge back their higher frame, then you are maintaining the lead in the conversation. Then he's painting some hypothetical, explaining that, for example, if tomorrow all the men were drafted, they could not do anything about it. If the strong government wanted them to do so, then
He's also, I think, just too smart. Like, his logical conclusions, people don't really anticipate. Kind of shocks them. To be fair, though, he's not necessarily debating very intelligent people to begin with. But it doesn't negate the fact that he's making good, sound arguments.
and outside of illegal means of escaping, you would not really have much chance of not getting drafted. In that regard, according to him, men are definitely as oppressed or could be as oppressed as women are by her definition. Then she is falling into the mistake that he did not fall into, which is trying to counter-attack on very specific details, saying that no, by his age, he's 40 years old, oh, he would not be drafted. And whether it is the case or not, when you're battling on specific details within the frame that your opponent has painted, you're already battling within their field. So far, the hypothetical of the draft is his frame. He's handling his frame beautifully. When she's interacting within that frame, not much she can do about it. As a last resort, though, she's trying to say that, oh, by now even women would be drafted. They're talking about it in the government, whether here in Russia, whatever she's referring to, that could happen too. So after he has refuted her last point about the draft, then within that context of talking about the draft, the main thing to do here would have been to concede on this point specifically. Does not mean he has won the debate and she lost, maybe she could win other parts, but this point specifically of the draft, not much more you can argue about that. However, instead of conceding on that specific point about the draft, she's going to flip the conversation, trying to get into another thing to avoid admitting she has been wrong on that example alone. And that is what pisses him off. That is when he's not going to let her evade the point, he's going to attack and attack way more brutally.
You say you don't have any bodily autonomy, but neither do I.
That was a phenomenal breakdown. I've never seen anybody come up with a visual like that. And I like the way that he described it. It was good.
Do you have to grow another person inside of you? And then
I'm sorry. Do you have to go die in a war?
No, I don't have to. But I can
great.
choose to.
Great. No,
I
no,
can choose to.
but you can be. But I can be drafted. You can't.
You could always break your leg too.
Yeah, I know. You can always just not take jizz in your. I mean, sorry. Like.
And his rhetoric is great.
All you have to do is not let a guy come in your fucking and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, no, you're totally right.
You're totally, yeah, I know. I'm totally right.
It's almost like my mom was on birth control, they used a condom, and my dad only had one testicle.
And all she had to do is not let him jizz in her.
They used all the proper things.
Like not jizzing in the. I promise you that what happened in this case is your dad came inside your mom, 100%.
Came inside of a that also happened to be inside
and so
of a mom.
Came inside your mom?
Inside of a condom.
So came inside your mom.
Inside of a condom.
So wait, I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that I got this. I just want to make sure I got this right.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Excuse.
Dude, this is great. He is straight up just mirroring her. This is awesome.
Excuse you. You're not speaking.
I am speaking.
So
though.
your dad, listen, you green-haired freak. Your dad came inside your mom, right? Your.
Her face. That is great. Oh my gosh, that was brutal. That was wild.
Dad came inside your mom. Answer the question.
Rachel, she did nothing wrong.
Just in case she's
Can you answer the question now?
How many beers have you had?
Not enough. Can you answer the question?
Obviously.
Yes, thank you. How fucking hard was that? Now
how hard was it to deduce it yourself, asshole?
Oh, how hard was it to admit a thing that you can't admit because you know it hurts your argument?
So now that he got determined to
oh my gosh,
get her stuck by every means possible,
But that's what we need, you know, because like I've seen Nick Fuentes debate some of these people, and he does a good, like he's a good debater. He just doesn't know how to insult as well. He's not as good at the rhetoric game, I would say, in a big way. Although he is good at it, but Andrew Wilson is better in the debate context than he is, because that would be the only. And Jay Dyer's good at it too, which I think Andrew Wilson probably is inspired quite a bit by Jay Dyer's ability to debate, because Jay Dyer takes it to a very, very high level type of debate, very academic type of professional debate. I don't know if academic is the right word, but a proper philosophical debate is what he wants to engage in. When people do not engage in that, he refuses to engage with them in a lower tier, which is good because he controls the frame, and that causes him to essentially win in some ways. but he's also really good at what he does when people do engage with him on that. He just maintains the frame in a different way. Although he could, he could do well, I think, in these settings too, but he chooses not to do so. Maybe that's the case. I don't know.
He's using the same technique over and over again, as you have noticed. In logic, that might be referred to as the parallel reasoning, which is a logical method where someone responds to an argument by presenting a structurally similar case to highlight a flaw, inconsistency, or double standard in the original reasoning. It does not directly refute the point, but mirrors the logic to test the validity and fairness of your opponent. If oppression is unfair to everyone, and we have agreed that men could also be oppressed under some circumstances, then there is no way to say that women are more oppressed by subjective standards only. That is kind of what he's leading up to, but she will not want to let him go there. Therefore, he's counter-attacking non-stop until she concedes at least that she's not right in that specific argument. And in the magical linguistics model that I have designed for simplicity without all the complicated logical terminologies, I simply refer to that as analogies, which might also fit into the alternative views, but let's stay simple. So when she says, well, excuse me, do you have to grow a person into your body? He is using exactly the same sentence structure by saying, well, do you have to go die in a war? Staying within his frame, explaining implicitly that if she wants to flip the conversation, he can flip the conversation in the same exact way. Then trying to escape again, she says, oh, well, you can always just break your leg, and he strikes back with, you can always just not take jizz in your genital area to stay polite. Finally concluding with the way more childish way of handling a debate here, I agree, but that is what he explained earlier. When the person is acting childish, well, he can act childish too to show them that this is completely unproductive, and let's go back into logical reasoning. So when she says, excuse me, I'm speaking, well, excuse you, you're not speaking. And then finally, once he got her stuck literally everywhere, and she conceded, but she wants to maintain her ego, obviously, as anyone being confronted to a guy like this. So she says, how hard was it to deduce it by yourself, asshole? And he is using the parallel reasoning one last time, saying, how hard was it to admit a thing you can't admit because you know it hurts your argument, my dear? Yes, that might sound extremely harsh, and you may...
It's not extremely harsh at all. I think it's needed in order to get through to these people in a lot of ways.
Believe that is counterproductive. I don't say it is counterproductive. I don't say it is the best way of debating either. I, as I said, think it is an interesting tool to have in your toolbox against the worst individuals you will have to face. I'm not saying she is. I don't know her personally. I'm saying that in my personal life, definitely I have had to deal with extremely toxic people, and I definitely pushed the boundaries because otherwise those people just keep walking over you again and again and again until you give up. And now let's watch another example where he's using the same kind of reasoning of using exactly their sentence structure and type of logic against them. This one is even more harsh on the content, I would say, but it shows how you can always apply that technique anywhere at any time against anybody.
I mean, okay, so if you had the choice between, there's a woman, she is like 27 weeks pregnant, and you can either perform an abortion on her personally, or you could kill a 2-year-old child. You have to do one or the other. Which are you doing?
If you had to do...
Yeah, you have to either personally perform an abortion.
So from my perspective, these are morally equal. They're morally equal.
Okay, so which would you do? You have to do one.
Well, they're morally equal. So whichever one I picked, from my perspective...
you have to do one. Pick one.
Well, okay, I would pick the abortion, and I would also pick the other one if the abortion
You're going for
wasn't
both?
available. Yeah.
Overachiever,
They're morally equivalent.
Okay.
So you're asking me about a morally equivalent question.
But that's why
she doesn't understand that.
I'm asking you.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Just to show you why that dichotomy doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Remember, I did just answer your question, told you which one I would do, right?
You said you would do both, but...
Okay, no, I'll do the abortion.
Okay.
Now...
Should we have her do the...
Hang on, I'm almost done.
Okay.
Well, let me just ask you the same question back. Would you rather essay a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old?
What the fuck?
That is equivalent.
What? I got it. Damn, bro.
But that becomes a question of sexual
assault.
assault.
No. Answer the question like I did. if you're going to make a false bifurcation for a choice, and I actually answer
bifurcation.
it is.
She doesn't understand it. She's just regurgitating her natural response, which is she wants to disagree. She doesn't understand what he's saying by bifurcation, or she's being disingenuous.
What do you mean it's not? If you had to do X or you had to do this, which one would you do? I just gave you the same question back. Now you answer. Which one would you rather
that's
say?
That's not the same question.
I didn't say it's the same question. It's the same logic.
You're doing two different things. One is an abortion. One
you're
is
doing two different things here too. And what we're looking for is which one you think is more morally abhorrent.
Either.
When I told you these are morally equivalent to me, you said that's not good enough. You have to choose one. Okay, so I chose one. You're saying these things are morally equivalent to me. Okay, choose one.
Okay.
Which one?
I mean, fair. I don't think that. See, I don't think that they're morally equivalent. When I ask that question, if I can pull the same answer and say they're morally equivalent, yes, I think that SA is wrong regardless of age.
Right. Okay, so murder is wrong regardless of age.
I don't think that abortion is murder.
Yeah, I know you don't.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that if you offer a false dichotomy or a bifurcation for a hypothetical, just remember that I can ask one back the exact same way to test your logic.
And despite those
he's fucking good.
The heated exchanges, you can also see that every time he's done with the person, he's also complimenting them in most of his debates when they haven't been highly disrespectful either. And that is something most people who don't watch the entire debates never really see of Andrew Wilson.
You came in super prepared. I see all the little sticky notes in the Bible, and I actually saw you out front writing, right? Just like prepping for this debate. That I have a lot of appreciation for, right? So many times I get in debates with people who do no prep, no nothing. They just think this is the easiest thing in the world to do, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So first, Luke, thanks for coming in. Yeah, it really was. And I really enjoyed kind of the spirited back and forth.
Yeah.
As I told you before, I don't hold any grudges. I think that conversations like this are necessary.
So those methods can be used in debating to better articulate your points, what you want to say, how you want to say it, and how can you adapt it to the person in front of you. In that regard, as I have said, you have a chapter down below coming from my book. You can get the chapter for...
Interesting. Now let's see this video it made me.
Everyone is focused on how AI will automate jobs. The world's largest luxury company is using it to deepen relationships. We should pay attention. A Wall Street Journal piece this week details how LVMH, owner of Tiffany, Dior, etc., is using AI to navigate a market slowdown. On the surface, it's a story about efficiency, but underneath, it's a masterclass in the real future of technology and business. The common fear is that AI will create a cold, impersonal, and commoditized world. LVMH is betting on.
Hang on.
Everyone is focused on how AI will automate jobs. The world's largest luxury company is using it to deepen relationships. We should pay attention. A Wall Street Journal piece this week details how LVMH, owner of Tiffany, Dior, etc., is using AI to navigate a market.
We can just get rid of that portion. Okay. Let's go back here. What the fuck? Let's go back to this.
Everyone is focused on how AI will automate jobs. The world's largest luxury company is using it to deepen relationships. We should pay attention. A Wall Street Journal piece this week details how LVMH is using AI to...
Why is she not talking? Okay, so let me... All right.
Everyone is focused on how AI will automate jobs. The world's largest luxury company is using it to deepen relationships. We should pay attention. A Wall Street Journal.
What the fuck? Why is she not talking? Dude. All right. You know, we're just going to let that sit for a minute. Let's go back over here. Let's see.
It's really funny. I get these DMs, you know, all the time from like giant apologetic accounts, you know, Christian apologists, people who run Christian channels, and it's always the same, right? It's always the same thing. They're like, listen, Andrew, the way that you absolutely devastate the femoids in the left is fantastic. Now, I'm always waiting, right? Because you know they're buttering you up. You know they're buttering you up.
Yeah, I hate that. Okay, well, where's the but? But
always that but. You know, they throw the but in there. I feel like we could adjust your message a little bit.
Yeah, those are the gatekeepers. Those are the people who are trying to manage your tone, manage the way you speak so that way you can get big and you can make the big money.
To make it a little bit more palatable. Or, you know, for other people. I mean, we agree with you. We think everything you're saying is true, but what if we make it?
You know who's notorious for doing that? Those who know.
Get a little bit more palatable. And I always send back the same response. And it's my way of nicely saying, F you. What I always say is, listen, all you are actually doing, even though you don't know this, is trying to placate women. That's it. That's it. I know it. You know it. Everyone else knows it. Who am I supposed to be opening my message up to? Who am I supposed to be opening it up to? Women, right? That's who they want to. What they really mean is, Andrew, will you placate a bunch of annoying women who have been bothering and bugging the shit out of me because they don't like your tone? That's it. That's it.
Yep. He's 100%.
So I always tell them, stop trying to placate women. If you didn't do that, you wouldn't have feminized churches.
Boom. That's key right there, baby.
So why don't you deal with that instead of worrying about how common people speak about common issues? Because that's all it is. It's always just, we want you to placate women. No. I just want to, like, let's just get this off the table, right? No. And by the way, that doesn't work. It doesn't. You tell them that, they don't even understand it, right? They don't understand it. I'm like, that doesn't work. Doesn't work. Okay? All that happens is they're like, oh, he toned it down. And then they want to bring in then they think it's a suggestion box where they can put little post-it notes. You know what I mean? They think it's a suggestion box. Oh, he toned it down? Well, listen, there's some other things that you could do. Helpful suggestions, you know? There's some other things that you could really do that women would really like to blah, 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 blah. Then your whole inbox just gets filled like it's a suggestion box for how to placate more women in their... until the very thing that you had set out to do has been completely and totally devastated by small little paper cuts from annoying, smarmy, librarian complaining Karens. So I always just have to respond the same way. No, and stop trying to placate women. Stop it. It's disgusting at this point. Disgusting at this point. Treat them like they're toddlers. Treat them like they're toddlers.
So true.
You just can't take it.
It's so true, and it's so annoying because guys are such a fucking dudes. Stop believing that happy life. It's like the rainbow shit, bruh.
They can't take it. Do you understand? You put women off? Do you understand that? It's like, you understand that placating them puts them off worse? Like, do you get that? Yeah, stop placating women all the time. Stop infantilizing and making them toddlers.
Yeah.
You think they're all pissed off because they understand exactly what I'm saying. And you think if I fixed the tone and said it in a nice way with a sing-song voice, that somehow would make what I was saying less offensive to feminists? Because you're wrong. Because you're wrong.
He's right.
But this has to happen to me. I mean, 4 or 5 times a week. Some giant account. Some giant Christian account. Andrew. The way you dismantle these femoids is just magnificent. But if you could just do it in a way that made it completely less effective and put them in control, I think it would be way more effective. It's like, are you stupid? Yes. Yes, you are.
That was great. I'm just changing it up a little bit. We're gonna get into some AI stuff. I'm just exploring some other things that I find interesting. See this?
They can't find men who are maybe more conservative. Usually they're looking for somebody who is religious, like a lot of conservative women tend to be God loving conservatives, and they can't find a lot of
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't even really believe what she's saying.
young men who want to marry a working woman now. And this is an actual problem that's coming up on the right. And to me, it's so sad because it's like, how do we...
It's sad?
Yeah, right?
Why is that sad? Can you imagine culmination of the right wing, which banks on Christian ethics for the entire purview of its base, saying that it's sad that men want to live inside of those ethical purviews. They want their wife to stay at home and look after their children and teach their children and help their children, rather than outsource that to... That's sad. Why don't they care about our careers? That's not what you're here for. You're not here for your career. There's nothing more important that you can do. And by the way, if you're super smart and you're a brilliant woman who could be a scientist, best thing you can do still is to reproduce. Why would we not?
Fact. Why would you not want to pass on those genetics?
want your genes to be reproduced.
Look at that.
If you're brilliant, we want brilliant children, right? So reproduction is another for brilliant women who can do this, right? That's even better. Even better. The whole culmination of this is like, why would you punish women who want to be working girls? Like, because it's at the expense of the other thing, which is so important to us, which is our reproduction, the replication of legacy. Your children are your legacy.
100%.
They're what you leave behind in the world that keeps your genes left in the world. Even J.F. Gary Epi completely concedes that this is true. In fact, I think he makes the argument in his own way often. It is the legacy that's left behind. It's the only way that, I mean, my grandpa still lives through me. His genes are still very much alive inside of me. And his grandfather before him and his grandfather before him. You have lines going back, thousands of years just being completely eliminated.
Yeah, I know. It's really crazy that people just are willing to do this like cultural suicide, this civilization type suicide, like bloodline's real, money ain't.
So that you can get some praise from your boss because you got the TPS report done on time? That seems really counterintuitive and very stupid.
Because it is.
It seems very stupid. And she's like, it's a big problem. Well, yeah, the big problem is that you want to have it all. Want to have a big career and have a family and have well-adjusted kids. And you can't have it all. It's not possible. And even if it was for some vague few, it ain't going to be possible for almost anybody else on planet Earth.
Get to the point where we're now telling young, conservative, amazing women that they're not attractive if they also work. If they choose to, let's say, do what I'm doing and what you're doing and like get their voice out there. But I'll stick with me just because I think conservatives listening to this will like the thought of another Megyn Kelly voice up and coming. Well, why wouldn't we want that? Why would we take somebody who's talented in this field and really wants to make a difference and have the messaging to her be, you're really not that valuable unless you give it up and go into the home and only have a family and only raise a family. And
how is she even conservative? She's a feminist.
Not only are we sending her that message, but young men are actually believing that. They're actually...
Yes.
Why would they not?
Young men actually have their own preferences. They prefer not to have any sort of outsourcing for their children's care, but would rather that the mate they selected for care for their children, and they don't outsource that to complete strangers because they're not stupid. What I've witnessed about most women is that they have a limited ability to self-reflect. They can't own up to the fact their choices are harming society. It's all deflection and justification. Well, it's your fault. It's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. Yeah, right. You can work later when your children are grown if you really want to. Also, you can have a part-time job or things like that to assist your household, even times where you may have to have a full-time job to assist your household. But the idea that men can't have a preference that they want their wife to stay home and take care of children, knowing full well that that's going to give them the most well-adjusted children, that's what we got. What are the things that can be the best reflection of the character of a man? Often it's what he puts out in the world. He can do this a few different ways. One way is what he builds. That's one way. Another way is the reflection of his children. That's another way. It is part of the legacy of men. Always. If you go into, let me give you an easy example. You ever gone into a restaurant where there's a mom and a dad who are sitting there and they have a few kids and the kids are crawling all over the place. They're knocking over and they're yelling, you know what I mean? And they're just pricks, you know what I mean? I think everybody's experienced that. And the second you see it, right, you think of it as a reflection of the parents, rightly so. That behavior is a reflection of the parents, rightly so. That was due to a failure of the parents, rightly so. Rightly so. Now, I always prided myself in the fact that and it's not that kids aren't going to make mistakes or do stupid shit. They are. All kids do this. Okay, all kids do dumbass things, you know what I mean? But I always prided myself on the fact that if I was in a restaurant and I had my children with me, their hands were folded, right? They would talk, but they would speak quietly. They wouldn't be disturbing other guests who were in the restaurant, right? They wouldn't be a problem for anybody. When I was a young man, when I was a kid, if I got loud in a restaurant, my dad would reach over and smack me across the mouth. And then he would say something and it would sound like this. Shut your mouth. And I did. And I did. That was about what it looked like. I'd get mouthy. And then he'd smack me across my stupid mouth. I used to chew with my mouth open, you know, when I was a little kid. My dad would reach over and he'd flick my bottom lip as hard as he could. That hurt. He said, close your mouth. Okay. Right? He didn't put up with no. Didn't put up with no. And what he would say is he would say, look, people don't want to come into this restaurant and hear you. And I don't want to come into this restaurant and hear you either. I don't want to hear you either. The treat is that you're in a restaurant and you're getting restaurant food.
Yeah.
And you get to go out. You know what I mean? You get to go out. That's the treat for you, kid. The treat for us is that you shut your mouth. And the treat for other people who are coming in the restaurant is that they can see that there's well-adjusted children who are sitting here, right, who are not acting out of turn and being pricks. That's the whole point. And it's like, this idea that a lot of these behavioral problems don't end up happening, especially these kind of ultra behavioral problems don't happen because of the outsourcing is insane. Of course it does. Of course it does. You outsource the raising to public schools. You outsource the raising of your children to complete strangers. And that's not to say that there won't be failures from even parents who do homeschooling and things like. Of course there are, but it's vastly, vastly superior to the alternative. You think of a couple who has a kid who's a problematic kid, right? Think about how much more problematic they would have been if you had outsourced them to a stranger. It would have been 10 times worse if you had outsourced it. Now, it's like, look, my old man was 100% right. He was 100% right, and I did need to shut my mouth. And I did need to chew with my mouth closed. And people weren't there to listen to me. They weren't there to hear me shriek or act like an asshole or carry on.
He's right.
Or any of that. That's not what they were there for. They were there to enjoy a nice meal, right, where they could hear quiet conversation with whoever else was at their table. He was totally right. While it's all good and dandy to have a stay-at-home wife take care of the kids, how do we get past the economy is set up for two-income households? The single-income household is dead. No, that's a materialist argument.
It is a very materialistic argument.
It's a materialist argument. Look, you're not telling me nothing about how tough it is on a single income to raise a family. Did it for years. And there was occasions we got behind. My wife had to go back and work part-time. You know, she'd work for a few months so we could get caught back up, things like that. There were sacrifices that had to be made from time to time. But mostly what we did was we cut out vacations. Totally cut out vacations. We never really took any. Well, not really. We just never took any. We never took vacations. We never really went anywhere. We didn't go out very much, right? We didn't do any of those things. We cut way back on all of those expenses, and they add up in a big way. It came down to the necessities were what mattered more than anything else. But you can't replace that. When I look back, for instance, to when I was a kid, I don't really remember any of the toys and that I got when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I don't remember any of that stuff. We lived in really small places because my parents didn't do very well for most of their life until they got much older. And I don't really remember it being very bad to be inside of, a not so spacious, house and things like that. It wasn't very bad on us. It really wasn't. I always remember that my mom wanted to make sure I was clean, and she always wanted to make sure I was taken care of, and so did my dad. You know what I mean? They wanted to make sure of those things. But any of the like extras, the toys and the this and the that, I barely remember that stuff. What I do.
That's very true. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't really have any like those warm feelings. I definitely remember the material stuff more.
Do remember is that my parents cared a lot about me, and they sure loved me, and they definitely made sure that that I was kept in line where I needed to be. That's what mattered. You know what I mean? You're supposed to give up a lot of the conditions of like material wants when you have children. That's what you're supposed to do. It's not all about you anymore. It's about the next generation. It's about your kids. I'll be right back.
Ed, do you? Well, yes. Do you feel less comfortable with people of different races? Would you say?
Certainly not individually. No.
Not individually.
Well, I think that it's natural, and it's just. I'm afraid it's just the way it is that people like being in their evolutionary match, and their evolutionary match is to be around people that are similar to them. There were studies that indicated that when you are shown photographs of people of your own ethnicity who are strangers, then right, fine. Then if you compare that to showing you photographs of people of a different ethnicity that are strangers, it activates your amygdala, it activates this primitive part of the brain that's associated with fight and fright and flight. So this is a fact that people are more comfortable with people of their own ethnic group. This is just true.
Is it not a case where we could, of maybe perhaps we should fight biology in that sense, and to have a fairer society?
Well, I don't know that it makes it fairer. I think that you have to be realistic about biology. You can't fight. These are.
Well, you can. So you might want to just go masturbate in the corner somewhere biologically, right? But in society that's probably not good if everybody does that, and so you hopefully behave.
Well, that may be the case, but certainly on an individual level, I make a point of treating everybody the same. And I know that the research indicates that leftists don't do that. They alter how they talk with black people, let's say, because ultimately they think that they have lower IQ, and they think that, and they talk down to them. Now, one of the things that happened to me when I was in America, which was quite interesting, I can't remember whether I mentioned this to you when you were on my show, but I was in Detroit, and I was interviewing.
I like this guy, by the way. I watched a lot of his stuff years ago. A lot of his stuff got banned on YouTube, but he was pretty good.
All these various black people, and one of them actually commented that no white person. I asked him directly about things like race difference and intelligence and whatever, and he said to me that a white person never talked to him like this before. I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, I'm just talking to him, directly, bluntly, normally white people they don't do that."
But I agree with you. I mean, you're being
patronised by them.
You're being critical of the patronising woke way of talking to different minorities, and I totally agree with you on that. I don't like this idea at all. I mean, I'm wary of sounding naive because I don't have the empirical evidence in these things. So I am wary of that, but I don't like this idea at all. And I feel like it's something, if that is the case, I mean, really what you're saying is unconscious bias. The sort of woke unconscious bias is very real. And I just think, well, maybe so, because I do believe we have biases.
People are adapted to be with people that are similar to themselves, yeah. And you can see, even as a foreigner in Finland, I'm aware of it.
Yeah, but that's not a different skin color or anything. That's different culture, different history.
Different culture, but there's a certain different look. They know I'm not one of them.
I see.
I've been in cafes in Finland, in the areas where there's a Swedish minority, and I'm with other Finns, and the waitress speaks to them all, asks them what they want in Finnish, and then turns to me and asks in Swedish.
I see.
Because she knows I'm not. She can see.
Sure, but had you been born in that country, you would adopt the same cultures. And
even then, I think they would think I was because of the nose.
Because of the nose, quite possibly. I don't know. I certainly would like to think I don't feel less comfortable in areas of.
This guy is very naive.
Different ethnicities, but if you're talking about different ethnicities combined with socioeconomic factors and those kinds of things, maybe that does start. If it's a really difficult one, I think, with cause and correlation to prove anything here, because often minorities and people, they often are from lower socioeconomic backgrounds where there is more crime.
But you can deal with that by just looking at brain scans and how people deal with photographs of just random strangers of different ethnic groups.
Well, yeah, but they might feel that way because of how they've been made to feel based on their history.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have some criminality with regard to, let's say, Jewish people or East Asians. There wouldn't be that association there, but it triggers the same sort of thing. So I think that it is something that it's built into us, and it's quite natural in any organism to select for those that are. I'm not saying natural is good. I'm just saying it's the way it is. Whether it's a moral question is not really of interest to me.
No,
I'm interested in what is the case.
I appreciate that about you. I think that I appreciate that about you, and you're not interested in the moral. You're interested in what is what is the case. And I think that is
So
interesting.
at a one-on-one level, I don't see why anybody would have any trouble interacting with people of different races. I mean, why on earth would you? And I don't understand those. For example, I've had on my show a friend of mine, Lipton Matthews. He's a Jamaican researcher, and a number of people have objected to this, objected to me having an intelligent guy on my show to talk about whatever we were talking about just because he was black.
This is a
And
concern.
I found this incomprehensible. And similarly, I had an intelligent person on my show to talk about whatever it was to do with politics who happened to be transsexual. And I found it incomprehensible that the reaction of some people, which was that, what's the matter with you? How can you have this pervert on this troon?
I've had the same thing when I've gone on, say, Tim Paul's podcast, where just the whole comments were Jew, he's a Jew, and all of that.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I've had many Jewish
that
people on my
explains so many
podcast.
things.
And the same thing about why.
But what does that say? And I don't mean to sort of make you guilty by association, because I find that a terrible thing to do. But does it give you pause, considering that a lot of your
my
audience...
wife says this kind of thing to me. She says that your research is sort of helping, backing up the prejudices of racists. And I thought, but I don't care. It's I'm looking for what's empirically accurate. And some of my research, a lot of it indeed, indicates that woke dogmas and everything to do with it, environmental determinism, historical determinism, whatever, is wrong. It's a dogma, it's not scientific, it's anti-scientific, and it's wrong. But some of my research comes to conclusions that people that are right-wing don't like. And that, I think, shows the fact that I publish that research rather than suppress it. Shows that I am intellectually honest. So if people got very upset with me that I said that the research indicates that Ashkenazi Jewish people have an average IQ in America have an average IQ of 112. They are
Is that high?
That's very high.
Okay.
As an average IQ, it's the most
And I
intelligent.
think I'm even high for Ashkenazi Jews.
You may well be. Well, yeah, if it's 112, then that would be the average IQ of like a school teacher. So if you're higher than that, so you can see that that seems to me to be just it's fact. And you get these people that are like that can't be true because that implies that the Jews are better than us. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's not implying anything better or worse or anything. It's just a fact. And it's this fact value conflation.
But it's also not a fact. That what he's saying is not true.
That's a fundamental fallacy. And this autism, I had it the other day when I was on Richard's podcast and I was stating various facts about things. And this woman said, oh, I don't know. I mean, saying that women are less logical than men, I mean, that's not very reasonable, is it? I mean, you've got to take into account that if you say things that's going to hurt people's feelings. So, I mean, that's not a very reasoned or logical point to make. I was like, you're saying it's not logical for me to say that because it hurts people's feelings. You're just proving my point about the logic.
Prove the point.
And so yeah. So I think that I don't care about that, and that's what I was saying. Perhaps earlier we were talking about subclinical psychopathology.
Okay.
Now I don't care.
But here's the issue that you
and I shouldn't have to care.
Well, I'm making you care. No, look. Here's the issue that you and I both face here. Is we do have, whether we like it or not, some quite right wing or quite not so nice people following us and love bombing us, and we know from study. Here's some studies I do know about: is that beliefs aren't really formed in the pursuit of accuracy or knowledge. We don't form our beliefs hoping to be right or whatever it might be, as much as we think we do. We form them based on the group around us and our peers and the pressure. Now, we'd both like to think that we're outside of that and above that, but we are humans and we are going to be affected by them. And that might lead us to a fact value situation where we end up making a value call over somebody like David Duke based on perhaps the history of our peers pressuring us in that sense.
Well, possibly, but I like to feel that I'm relatively resistant to that. I mean, I've got a study that I'm about to publish which shows that people that are transsexual have elevated IQ compared to people that are not. And I imagine that a lot of my followers might not like that. But I would rather sit down with a logical and reasonable leftist like Jim Flynn than a person.
Aristotle said, wherefore women are more compassionate and more ready to weep more jealous and quarrelsome, more fond of railing, and more contentious. The female is also more subject to depression of spirits and despair than the male. She's also shameless and false, more readily deceived, and more mindful of injury, more watchful, more idle, and on the whole, less excitable than the male. On the contrary, the male is more ready to help, and as it has been said, more brave than the female, and even in the Malaysia, if the sepia is struck with the trident, the male comes to help the female, but the female makes her escape if the male is struck. So, just saying, the philosophers of old did not seem to have, well, I mean, they had a high opinion of women, I guess, but they seem to understand the nature pretty well, didn't they?
I just think that overall, like, obviously these philosophers, like, they're all male, but the one that you referenced, I like that he mentioned that women are more compassionate, because generally women are more compassionate than men, so we tend to feel a lot more.
Thing.
Yeah,
You understand? He's not saying that. He's saying that you're compassion. Like,
he's saying that we're compassion,
like we have like a no emotional agility, like we can't control our emotions.
Like compassion in and of itself. He's making a reference here. Wherefore, women are more compassionate and more ready to weep, more jealous, more quarrelsome. Right? He's saying actually that there's to their passion in this case that their compassion is often misplaced because it's a part of their nature. Right?
I think that's
what he's saying.
You do see that comment a lot towards girls, like, oh, you're being too emotional right now, or like, oh, you can't control your emotions, and that's not usually towards guys. I do see that a lot more. I literally said it to my sister last night because she was crying, but it's like she cried because she didn't know how to express herself. So I don't know, some women, they feel helpless, that they actually can't do anything, and so their only other alternative is to cry.
Doesn't that kind of prove the point? It proves the point, woman.
And I guess it kind of does play into Socrates, where he's like, oh, women cry to like get their way, and I can see that as well. I think that it's like they don't see any other action that they could take in that moment than to just cry, and it's just like a way for them to relieve like stress or built up tension within. And also women, I think that, you know, we feel like it's a lot easier to cry. I have not seen that many guys cry in my life, and it's like an Asian saying, like guys only cry 3 times in their life. It's like when they're born, when their dad dies, and when, I don't know, their grandma, mom, I forgot. You know the saying, right? Yeah. It's
Can I ask, like, would you guys feel as if like
That is most definitely not the saying.
Isn't that the saying?
I'll let you know, that is most definitely not the saying.
Yeah, it's a saying. No, she knows it. It's in Korean.
Yeah, Korean thing,
it's a Korean thing.
But that's not the 3 times they cry, though.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think I did it wrong. It was like when they're born, when someone dies, and then I forgot the last one. When they went to the military. I think it was that one.
I think guys mostly view crying as a sort of manipulative thing, or I guess most guys, because I can't say all guys, as a manipulative thing of girls to do to just get their way. But I think most girls are emotional, don't really know how to control their emotions, or they're just super emotional and just end up crying because they're hurt, not necessarily for wanting to like get their way or wanting to like manipulate their way in their situation. Because there's
I have to kind of give you a firm disagreement here. So I think women don't have much in the way of recourse except 2 ways: vicious slander or through manipulation. And here's why I think this. So men always have an option women don't, which is force. Women don't even really have a force option against other women, right? It's not really something they do. Now, it has become more prominent now that women fight or are willing to go fisticuffs with each other, but it's still not nearly as common as it is with men. And on top of that, they can't do that with men. So what they do instead is their kind of ways of fighting back are either through emotional machinations or through the idea of slander, right? Those are kind of the 2 pathways that they have, because what else do they have? So if Bob is giving me a bunch of trouble, I can Bob in the mouth, and that's totally socially acceptable. I can't Linda in the mouth, that's totally not socially acceptable. On the other hand, if Linda me in the mouth, that's laughable, right? It's just like, okay, well, what did you accomplish here? Perhaps you hurt your hand, right? So the thing is like, they don't really have much but 2 options. And so I think that's, I do think it's a form of manipulation. Now you could argue that manipulation is necessary because that's what's at their disposal, but I do think it's manipulation for sure.
I think it's the only defense mechanism that women really have besides what you just said, like going on a smear campaign. Just like a skunk gets scared and sprays, or a porcupine gets scared and puts their spikes up, women's only real defense mechanism is crying. Like, that's all they can do.
I wouldn't agree with that, because I would say we could, as you know, women kind of put in the work and control our emotions, and maybe.
Which is why.
I mean, admitting your wife is.
Oh my God, bro! Did you not? Are you really gonna just do
sorry.
this? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You do TikTok streams. Hello.
I know. I'm sorry.
We went over it yesterday. We went over it before the show today.
Sure.
I think also that's like incredibly like a total buzzkill thing to say at the beginning of the show. That's like today. This.
Your wife is.
Which is why.
I mean, admitting your wife is.
Oh my God, bro! Did you not? Are you really gonna just do
sorry.
this? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You do TikTok streams. Hello.
I know. I'm sorry.
We went over it yesterday. We went over it before the show today. I think also that's like incredibly like a total buzzkill thing to say at the beginning of the stream.
Well, I mean,
like
too
to say.
much.
Hold on.
Sure. Go ahead.
So we have other panelists here. I think it's incredibly disingenuous to just say that he rapes his wife without providing the fuller context of that conversation. Mind you, you must have missed the part where Rachel was continuously chiming in through the show, where she has consent. She wakes him up with certain acts. He wakes her up with certain acts. You want to insert a buzzword to try to paint this man as a predator and a criminal, and I think that's absolutely despicable, especially.
Dude, it's actually good that they do that. You know, I with a certain appreciation for these shows. Before, I used to think that, you know, what's the point? But there's certain things that are good about them.
At the start of a dating discussion show, I'd like you to apologize to Andrew.
I apologize for my language.
No, it's not your language. I want you to apologize for your mischaracterization, because categorically, that's not what he is.
Did he not say
Well,
that?
yeah,
Categorically,
but
that's not what he is.
But here's the thing.
I saw
did you
it,
say
and
that?
I don't think you were being your wife.
No,
Okay.
well, no, right? So this is the problem. Is like you can just definitionally. So women named Kinsey who drink water are rapists. By that definition, aren't you definitionally? So women named Kinsey who drink water are rapists. By that definition, aren't you a rapist? Yes, right? So that's what you do. You definitionally will say, you and every other normal American married couple on planet Earth will oftentimes wake each other up with sex. It's like, it's the most ridiculous thing anybody's ever. They were laughing at you because it's so ridiculous.
I don't think it's ridiculous that one aspect of engaging with someone when you're having sex is that they're conscious.
Oh, anybody here?
I mean, that's
ever
just
had
absolutely ridiculous.
ever been in a couple relationship where one of you woke the other one up with sex? Anyone? No, just me and you. That's it.
Wow.
I ask.
It's good to make sure.
Yeah. Like if you're married to the other person.
Before you do that.
Yeah, that's. These women are being honest.
Why do you want them to be unconscious?
I mean, I don't like my wake. I'm not literally. I don't have the device that puts it in. But I wake them up in ways to suggest that I want it, and then
Do you suggest that you want it, or you actually are like forcing penetration while they're unconscious?
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That'd be pretty hard.
So funny.
You would have to have a lot of intent to.
Seems like she walked it back.
No, I mean.
Into
Most people in those situations, there's like groping and stuff. They don't usually put it straight on in when they. I don't know how to explain it.
Thinking.
They only essay you while you're asleep. Then they don't.
If it's in her
what do they do?
definition
what are they
of
doing?
essay,
Are they just grabbing a boob?
You can't. Like, I don't personally. My boundaries in a relationship, I'm okay with that. If someone is not okay with that, then it is essay, and
So I'll explain it like this, I guess, really simply. If you have given consent to your girlfriend, hey babe, I would like you to, and I will allow you to wake me up with a BJ. Her position is that that woman has just now committed a felony. Would you guys agree that she should be then arrested and placed? I mean, she doesn't believe in prison. Should she then be placed in prison? A girlfriend, your boyfriend says, "Hey, babe, I'd like you to wake me up with a BJ." You
That's a very
fully have my consent. She thinks that that's SA. She thinks that that's a felony.
I
I mean-
don't agree with that.
No, let's let the panel
I can see
answer.
where she's coming from. Like,
How are you serious?
no, I'm not saying. I can see what she's trying to say. Like, she would want like her partner to.
because you can do that on TikTok. I've had that happen to me on TikTok. It's kind of hard to debate on TikTok, because you're engaging with a lot of people like this.
Be awake or her be awake before like having sex.
Well, that's fine if that's her standard for her relationship.
Do you think consent should be reversible?
But it's not.
Can
If they say no and they keep going, that is.
You're saying if I my girl.
I'm just asking. Do
No,
you think
are you
an
saying-
aspect of
nah.
consent is that it's reversible?
So,
It is
are you
ridiculous.
saying that if I
How
tell
can you reverse it if you're
If
unconscious?
he's doing it and you wake up and you don't want to, then just be like, I don't feel like it, and have them stop. It's that simple.
I mean, imagine you wake up and your boyfriend is having sex with you.
I don't think it starts like
I
that.
think you would
First
wake
it starts
up,
with, like,
that for me
like-
would feel.
I don't have to
very-
imagine it.
Unless
I
you're
do
on
it all the
drugs or
time.
something.
Very
I think it's
violating
funny.
if he has been.
I don't think you would
penetrating
sleep
me
through that
once.
unless
you
you're on
missing the
drugs.
why do you conveniently omit and exclude the portion where there has been consent given?
Why are you not answering
And
my
how about
question
you answer my
when it
question?
comes to
I'm the
should
host.
consent be revocable?
I know I don't have the mute button like you do on your TikToks, but I'm the host, so you're going to answer my question. Go ahead.
So
In the
what-
same way that you bully people in your TikToks, you're going to answer my question. Go ahead.
I'm answering your question.
And I'd
Usually
be
when
much-
you ask a question, you stop talking so someone can answer it.
Go ahead.
So when we look at aspects of consent, I don't think it's just based on being agreeing to an action. There are other aspects of consent when it comes to sex, and one of it is that consent is
She's
reversible.
probably single and lives with cats.
If you're unconscious, you can't reverse your consent.
What about a will?
What about will?
A will. Can somebody will you their stuff?
Yes.
I don't understand. They're not conscious. What about their consent?
We're talking about consent when it comes to sex. Obviously, there are going to be
Be
different
cons-
standards when it comes to different aspects that you're agreeing to. Like even medical procedures require an aspect of informed consent. Sex
Well, how do
has
you-
different
how do you
aspects
give
of consent.
somebody the-
Contracts have different aspects.
Yeah, how do you give somebody the ability to make medical decisions for you?
I mean, if you're a power of attorney.
Yeah, so then you're agreeing that this person, when you're not conscious, can do things with your body.
Oh my goodness.
Sure.
Why
when it
can't you
comes
do
to-
that
when it
with your
comes
wife
to
when it comes to
medical-
sex?
When it comes to medical procedures,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Why can't you
when
do
it,
that
When
with-
it comes to sex, because I just believe that you have to have that aspect of it being reversible.
Totally inconsistent. How is it that a person can be unconscious on a table?
Again, there are different
they're still
standards when
alive.
it comes to different aspects.
Well, I know that there's different standards, but in order to be consistent, if the one standard
I
is
don't
there,
think no.
yeah, if the one
There
standard is
there
there,
doesn't have to be consistent standards for every single situation.
oh, so you just have
There can
inconsistent
be-
standards. That's what you're saying.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
I do think sex has certain conditions that should be required.
Why?
And I
'Cause
don't
you just
know
think so?
why
You just think so?
being reversible is unreasonable, or being conscious is
Reversible
like,
would be
it's
she wakes
state-
up after she gave you consent and then says stop. That would be reversible consent.
Well, if she's not conscious, she doesn't have the capacity to reverse.
She
it.
already gave you the consent, just like
You're gonna wake up during sex unless you're on drugs or something.
with like
can
slight
stay
noises, like,
asleep.
oh my god,
So
I feel like
imagine
I heard
if,
someone walking.
if you're
and
having
they wake
sex
up.
while you're drunk and then you pass out in the middle. Is there any kind of
I've done that.
ethics on continuing to go, like continuing?
No, yeah, being unconscious like after
Then don't keep
drinking,
going. That'd be weird.
That's different.
Well, I mean, you already got consent.
That's different. That's like a whole different like scenario. Like if you're
I
being
mean,
woken up,
it's not.
and you're
You've already
sober.
gotten consent. I just don't know why it's such a crazy take that when you're having sex with a partner that they're conscious.
Because
Like,
because it's
absolutely
inconsistent.
wild.
being drunk, being like too drunk and you pass out, that's just different from like.
Well, let me ask.
That comment was great.
Look at this.
Sleep.
She's asleep.
Like,
and
you
you reach
didn't
over
choose to fall
when you're
asleep,
spooning
you got
her,
so drunk
and you
you
just
passed
grab a
out.
handful of the chest. Is that SA?
No.
Why not?
I think when we're talking about essay within this specific context, like,
She can't consent.
She
If
was
I reached
talking about
over
the
and-
one act of putting something in while the
but
other
why-
person is unconscious.
Again, this is totally
again,
inconsistent.
I think there can be differences between like unwanted touches or unwanted affection
Uh-huh.
versus engaging in sex when your partner's unconscious.
I don't understand. Doesn't a woman need to consent before I grab her chest?
No, I think there
No?
can be. When you're in a committed relationship, I do think that there can be aspects of like understanding each
Just
other's
not that
boundaries.
one?
Not when it comes to like
Why?
bodily integrity.
That's
no.
again
because
not consistent
cuddling
at
and
all.
having sex is different.
Yes,
Cuddling
I
and sex-
understand that they're different, but why is the standard different? So the whole idea here is consent.
Because the degree, do you think someone being groped and someone being are equal in terms
Do you
of
think
trauma?
from an intersectional viewpoint
just
that
asked
all
you a
traumas,
question.
and I'm answering it, from an intersectional viewpoint, all traumas are not equal. Since all traumas are not equal, a poor
Correct.
woman who's getting her chest grabbed can be just as traumatized as a woman who's been penetrated, yeah?
I mean, obviously it would depend on the person, but
Right.
no, I would say if you are penetrated,
I'll be back.
that violation of bodily integrity is always going
You
to be
can't make a determination from an intersectional standpoint on trauma. Trauma for a woman who's been groped can be just as bad as a woman who has been penetrated. Yes or no?
No, I would always say the trauma from being penetrated is going to be
Based on what? Just some arbitrary standard you made up?
just because of how different your body is in terms of being violated internally versus touched.
Oh, I see. So
There's
not
lifelong damage that
there's
can
not
come
a
with that.
single woman who's been penetrated who's had less trauma than a woman who has been
I mean, you
essayed
tell
or
me,
violated.
you're making the claim.
I'm asking.
I
Didn't claim.
asked and answered.
How I don't understand. What claim did I make?
You made the claim that everyone's trauma is going to
No,
vary
I said
and
from
someone,
an intersectional standpoint.
well, that again, that's your.
Yes, from an intersectional
Where are you
standpoint,
getting that from?
it's literally in intersectional literature that
literature?
trauma cannot be deduced as feminist standpoint theory.
Where?
You can find it in every university in the United States that teaches feminist classes. So in feminist standpoint theory, the claim is made that trauma, you cannot say one trauma is worse than another trauma. How could you do intersectionality if you believe that you could just do that arbitrarily? You can't. So if that's the case, you can't really make the claim this trauma is worse than that trauma because it's going to be dependent on the
It's going to
person.
be a higher degree.
Depending on the person. Yeah?
I think there can be obvious classifications.
Okay, but depending on the person, logically this has to follow. It has to be dependent on the person. One trauma can be worse for them or it can be less worse for them. Yes or no?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then
I mean,
that's
she's tired of her too.
I've
complete
said the same-
nonsense.
I've said the same.
All right. No AI news today. That's all for me. I got some work I'm going to do. I'm out.